So that was an amazing game, best game of the whole weekend. Dalton, a game that really wasn't a great game on Friday night was number 14 Kansas State dominating number 20 Arizona 31-7 in this game. Let's go over the highest graded players from this K-State Arizona game, starting with the winning Wildcats. Kansas State, Austin Romaine had an 80 grade in this game. Avery Johnson at 77.9, Sam Hecht at a 74.7, Jordan Riley at a 74.5, and Brendan Mott at a 74.4. The highest graded Arizona Wildcats in this game, starting with Tetaro McMillan at an 84.6, Chase Kennedy at 80.2, Noah Fafita at a 78.9, excuse me, Jonas Vainea at a 70.7, and Conley, and Tay Brown tied at a 70.6. So, Dawn, when you were looking at the stats from this Friday night game, what really told the story here?
Look, for me, and it's a theme that you were talking about in the preview show and something you're going to expand on too in a minute, and I'll take a different angle on it. It's just the lack of anything outside of Fafita and McMillan, right? And I'll take the running game angle on it. Okay, Kansas State had 219 designed rushing yards. Arizona had 51. And 27 of those 51 were on their first drive of the night. There are only 7 points that they got on the first drive of the night. So the rest of the night after their first drive, in what for a lot of it was a tight game, they only had 24 designed rushing yards from there. You just can't. You're going to get into something else here, but if your running game is non-existent, look, I understand pass-heavy teams. They should be a pass-heavy team. They might have the best receiver in the country. Yep. You've got one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I get it. They're going to lean that way, but it can't be non-existent. We've seen it. We talk about it every week with Colorado, don't we? They don't run the ball at all. They just can't. Right now, Arizona, and now the entire eligibility question now with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and he's out if he's done for the year, and they only have Conley. I think part of what could have made them really good was having Krosky-Merritt and Conley, because I don't know in a Big 12 gauntlet schedule that Conley's going to be able to carry just an entire load like that for a team that is very mediocre at run blocking. So for me, the running game and the difference in this game was in the running game, and I had a bad feeling about this matchup going into it. It's why I picked K-State to win, because there was no part of this game, not a single moment in this game, even down 7-0 early, where K-State looked uncomfortable, especially offensively. And I think for anybody who says, I figured maybe you were going to ask me, is this a statement game? I don't think so. K-State played the same ball they play every week, and this is the result some weeks when you can't match that level of physicality and you can't either run with them or stop the run. This Big 12 is going to come down to two things: quarterback play, which usually is the case, and run defense, right? And one team stopped the run in this game and the other didn't, and the team that came out on top in that category just dominated the game.
Yeah, so Eli, Mitch, and I went out to watch this game, and Eli's girlfriend Elizabeth, who's awesome, by the way, too, but we were watching this game, and we were like, if they're going to run the ball like that on the first drive, this game's over. Arizona's got them.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden you can't double up McMillan, and you got to put guys in the box, and then I was like, yeah. And then after that, it was like it never ended. So it just never happened. So yeah, that was a big part of it. And Dawn, the other thing I talked about in the preview was find someone outside Tetaro McMillan. They could not find anyone outside Tetaro McMillan. He made up 52% of Arizona's receiving yards in this game. He also has 52% of the entire receiving yards this entire season for Arizona. He was targeted on 38% of his routes against Kansas State. Just for reference, the top guys in college football, top guys in the NFL, like these star number one receivers, like Justin Jefferson, those kind of guys, they get targeted on like 33%, 34%. He's been targeted on like 40% of his routes this entire season, which is outrageous. Dalton, he has 493 receiving yards this year. Arizona's next closest pass catcher has 94. He has 400 more receiving yards than anyone else on this entire team right now.
And the crazy part is schematically you would think, okay, they have a guy like McMillan. We shouldn't play man-to-man. There's a lot of reps in that tape from, was it Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
It's been a long weekend.
Yeah.
Friday, where you see man-to-man coverage. And they are basically, there's too many plays where McMillan is the only guy open.
Yep.
And the rest of the guys can't separate. And basically now K-State got in man coverage a lot and said, okay, just get him. We dare you, 30 targets. Go for it. Throw it to him every single time, because you just won't do it. Football doesn't work like that. Like, even he got, I think 14 targets he got?
For sure.
Which is a lot. We can acknowledge that is a lot. And they're basically daring them. Throw it to him every time.
And he gets gassed out, too. Like, you can't blame him.
You just can't have one guy do that all night like that. But the problem is too many plays where Case, I worry about this being a thing going forward against other defenses, maybe against Utah in 2 weeks, because if you know for a fact you can just blanket all the other guys, and McMillan's, are you going to throw it to him every single time? And then you just get out of your offense and it becomes a two-man show. It's hard to win like that.
Before I lost my Twitter, Dalton, I tweeted out, I said, Tetairoa McMillan isn't even the engine of Arizona's offense. He's the entire car.
Yeah.
One receiver cannot be your entire offense, no matter how good he is. He's probably the best receiver in the country. Doesn't matter, because you have to have something else besides him to rely on. It's far too predictable. It was like every time it was an obvious passing down, it's like, yeah, they're going to McMillan. They have to in this situation. So they had no answers when McMillan was doubled. And the more I watch Arizona this year, the more I'm like, wow, Jacob Cowing last year was so valuable.
I had the same. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, that's a guy that they're missing. They're missing a Jacob Cowing.
Yeah,
just another guy that can separate almost at will. And it doesn't even have to be someone as good as Cowing, because Cowing was really good for a long time in two different programs. But that's the exact same thought I had. I was like, oh, they need somebody. Them losing Jacob Cowing is such a big loss for their offense, because they just don't, right now, they don't have another guy that can separate.
And Tanner McLaughlin too, right?
Yeah.
The tight end, they're missing him too. Like, they're just anything outside of McMillan, they just don't have it right now, it seems like. He's averaging nearly 5 yards per route run this year, which is 6th among Power 4 receivers. So McMillan's amazing. He might be the best receiver in the country. They got to get something else outside of him to figure this out, though. Dalton, what was the most impressive part to you, though, in this game?
So for me, it's maybe not so much impressive as it is. I think it's very important for K-State, and he's not the guy that put up the biggest numbers. He may have made the biggest play in the game, the biggest single play in this game. But I'm very impressed with what I see so far in the small doses with Dylan Edwards, the Colorado transfer. He gives them just a different element, that speed element, that versatile element. They'll line him up in the slot sometimes. I love these sets where it's all three of Giddens, Johnson, and Edwards, all three in the backfield. I don't know how you defend that.
No.
I think you're going to see
Arizona couldn't.
You are going to see a whole lot more of that going forward, because Edwards, I know last year they had Treshaun Ward to go with Giddens, but I think he was kind of had some similarities to Giddens, whereas Edwards is a lot different. Giddens is straight downhill, physical, big, run you over. Edwards has got wicked feet. I mean, we saw it. He returned a punt for a touchdown, 6 carries, 41 yards, 5 missed tackles on 6 carries. Incredible, right? And he's been doing a little bit of this each week, and I think he's going to become more and more a part of their offense. His snaps are increasing each week. His alignments are increasing each week. You get the punt returns. And to me, the big thing, and I think he's just running with more instinct, too. We're seeing last year, it almost looked like he just didn't want to run between the tackles, and obviously it was tough at Colorado. It still is. But it looked like last year he just always wanted to bounce. He wanted to bounce. Right now, when he's lining up in the backfield, there's times where he can bounce and his speed will take him where he wants to go, or he's part of that power read with the jet sweep thing going on. He's that slot guy instead of a receiver. It's Edwards, and they'll just line him up out there. But Edwards is running between the tackles, and he's running hard, and it's making a big difference. Now the combination of him getting back to running with instinct and using his speed, I think he's a serious weapon in this offense. And now, instead of, we were going into the year thinking about, okay, maybe it's a possibility that Edwards is good, but we have to see it after his year at Colorado. But we knew they had Johnson and Giddens. Now, if you have a three-headed monster, I'm telling you, that set with all three of them standing back there, I wouldn't even know what to do with it, because then they're using offensive line to influence things, influence linebackers. They're doing all. They've got everything in their run game just set up right now. If they get any better in the passing game, and Avery Johnson was good in this game, I think he still needs more refinement as a passer. But he threw some good balls in this game, right? He had a few misses. He threw some good ones, but that's all they need to develop now, because I think Giddens and Edwards, that's suddenly becoming one of the best pairs of running backs in the country.
Dawn, I hate when we talk about the same thing over and over. I try to get a different thing to the table every time. There's nothing else to talk about this run game. This run game is so freaking dominant. It was like, this is what you have to talk about.
This is, and again, it's why for me, like, if in a ranked matchup, and even though it was non-conference, we're talking about at-large, and we're talking about Big 12 hierarchies and things like that. It's the part where it's not a statement game from Kansas State. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
And they were allowed by Arizona, essentially, in their defense and even their offense, the way it wasn't moving. They were allowed to do what they do. Kansas State was never uncomfortable at a single moment in this game. Even down 7-0, they knew we're going to keep racking it up with these three guys in the backfield. And that's just how they operate. This is a blueprint win for Kansas State. And if they did that against a team like Arizona, I mean, a lot of people were picking them at least to get into the Big 12 title game, and it's hard to think they won't with with them playing like that if they keep running the ball like that and if Johnson gets any better as a passer.
That's a great breakdown of the run game. I'll just add a few more stats because that was by far the most impressive part for me in this game as well. Kansas State averaged 6.6 yards per carry, 3 yards before contact per attempt, and 3 yards after contact per attempt. So the O-line was getting pushed down the field, and the running backs were breaking tackles. They had 9 runs to own of 10 or more yards in this game. Avery Johnson, the quarterback, had 124 yards. DJ Giddens had 86 yards. Dylan Edwards had 41 yards. And what I loved about it, it set up the play action beautifully for K-State in this game. In fact, both of Avery Johnson's touchdown passes came off of play action, and Arizona, you saw it at both times. The linebackers bit forward. They went all the way up to the line of scrimmage and then opened up a wide open touchdown for Avery Johnson to throw to. And Kansas State now, Dalton, has had a 100-yard rusher in 7 straight games now. This run game is the lifeblood of this program, and it's why they won this game against Arizona.
Absolutely. And look, when you have 3 guys like that instead of just one, say a team like an Ollie Gordon or a Marion Hampton or something like that, it's actually even more stressful because there's just threats. And Avery Johnson, I mean, are there any quarterbacks in the country faster than him?
No, he might be the fastest.
I don't know that there's a quarterback in the country right now that makes breaking contain look so easy. Mm-hmm. He could make the wrong read on a read option and he'll still outrun him. It doesn't matter. I mean, obviously some situational things. The end of the first half was rough, but the level of athleticism, man, if he just gets a little bit more accurate, what a dangerous player he is.
So